Welcome to the Virtual Power Teams podcast, the #1 podcast for working remotely and building powerful virtual teams. My name is Peter Ivanov, international keynote speaker and author of the book Virtual Power Teams, translated in 6 languages. Tune in every Tuesday for the very latest in virtual leadership, or visit my website peter-ivanov.com. Welcome to the Virtual Power Teams podcast, and today we have an exciting guest, Marc from Dropbox. We've met in an event a year ago, and I was inspired by the culture of Dropbox. They've been always on the forefront of enabling remote work and also having a unique culture for facilitating and leveraging on remote work. And now, a couple of months ago, I've read that Dropbox goes virtual first. Which was very exciting. And now we have a chance to have Marc with us. And he's one of the managers leading a large team in Dropbox to share the insights, why they do it, and so on. So Marc, welcome to our podcast. Tell us, please, who you are and what you do.
Sure. First of all, thanks, Peter, for having me. I'm really excited to be on this podcast.
My pleasure.
My name is Marc. I'm leading a pre-sales team at Dropbox, which is responsible for managing our channel operations. And I do have kind of a second thing that I'm doing at Dropbox, especially for Dropbox in Hamburg, which is I call myself a cultural ambassador, which means that I'm always, when I'm on stage, you experience that I'm a big fan of corporate culture. And I think it's super important, if not the most important thing for companies. So if you're working in a remote location that is not the central hub of a company, it's super important to have those cultural ambassadors there that can really bring the headquarter spirit to the local teams.
Absolutely. Thank you. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, as Peter Drucker used to say. What is unique? And I'm a big fan of, having hybrid teams and then the challenges that you have with the satellite members. But tell us, what is unique about the Dropbox culture and what has changed now with virtual first?
Now, that's a really good question. I think what's super unique in the Dropbox culture is the way people are working with each other and the way the kind of humble approach to people in general and to working. So what I experienced at my time during my time at Dropbox is that it's one of the rare companies where corporate values are not only hanging on a wall, but where really everybody in the company is living up to those values. It's even what made it special for me is that the values, they also made it into our wordings. Like on a day-to-day work, it's like, just as an example, if somebody would leave his desk, and keep his laptop open, and somebody would just say, well, that's not worthy of trust, which is one of our values, right? So we are really embracing those values. And to your second question, what changes with virtual first? Good question. We don't know, because we have to start it, right? So virtual first will be super exciting for us. And we are right now in the process of defining how we can keep this very unique culture by changing our whole model of operating. So that will be one of the most interesting things to see in 2021, I guess.
Perfect. Explain a little bit, because we had a discussion and I've read about, you have the option fully remote as some company goes. You have the hybrid option where people can opt office or not. What is virtual first? Because I guess some of the people may not know. How do you define it?
So virtual first is something that we looked at very, very thoroughly, because when you decide for a new way of operations, it's important that you consider as many things as possible. So while we are not going fully remote, what we're saying is that all individual work, every time that you're working on an individual basis, is done remote. From your home, from wherever you like, but individual work is always remote. On the other hand, we know that not only for corporate culture reasons, but also for productivity reasons, we need to meet in person as soon as it's safe again. Which means that what we will do here is we will build what we call Dropbox studios in our locations, in some of the locations that we already have, either build them there or have them on demand, where people can meet to collaborate. And the reasons for collaboration can be quite various. It's like if you have a team meeting, for example, if you have a brainstorming meeting, if you're building your new strategy for the next fiscal year, whatever it is, all of those are reasons we need to come together to discuss this in person.
Yeah.
And we will strongly foster this culture, although it's a culture change, but this culture of getting together, as it's super important to our corporate culture. And in addition to that, we will also give every employee the opportunity to work from a co-working space by financially supporting this. So those are kind of the three elements to it are, if you're working individually, you will work remotely. If you want to collaborate, you can work from a Dropbox studio. If you don't want to work from your home environment, or if you can't work from your home environment, which we've seen in the last month quite a bit with people having either very small children or living in a flat together with a couple of flatmates, then of course we're also supporting you to work from the place that you want, like a co-working space.
Excellent.
And that's virtual first.
The virtual first, distinguishing individual work remotely,
the
Dropbox studio, and then if you cannot work from home, they support you with a proper office collocation and so on. How, maybe on your question, you mentioned, trustworthy. Can you give us example of maybe 2-3 of the Dropbox values, and if you perceive any change now in the values going virtual first?
So even if in my head, I'm just going through all of our values, to be honest, I don't see any changes to corporate values at all.
Okay.
What will change is the corporate culture, because it has to.
Now, you mentioned networking, collaborating on ideas was part of the culture big time. Now with virtual first, do you have some practical ways already? How can you simulate such an environment?
Yeah. So we already put a couple of things in place, like with the start of the lockdowns everywhere, because we knew that this will probably last for quite some time. And by the way, we still have mandatory working from home until June 2021. So yes, we need to do some stuff. One thing that we do, for example, especially here in EMEA, is something that we call Coffee Box. So you can subscribe to a Coffee Box meeting, and then you would be randomly put into a Zoom room with random people that you might or might not know, but this is exactly our version of, well, I just go for lunch and see who's there.
Yes.
What's interesting about this is that we also did exactly the same thing when we were still working in an office, right? Because if you're in an office with, 200, 250 people, you want to get to know more people, it's kind of hard. Yes, you can do this, but in a set setting, it's actually super easy. And that's what we are also porting into the virtual world. And of course, we're having, instead of virtual Fridays, we do have virtual meetings where we will not talk about work at all, which is more those get-together meetings, talk about what happened during the day or what's on your mind currently. Also, one of the things that we are doing in a lot of the team meetings is we will start those team meetings with 2 questions. And the first is, what's on your mind professionally? And the second is, what's on your mind personally?
Yes.
Because right now, in those times, this is super important to get to know both things. And as you know, I'm working in a distributed team.
Yeah.
So I was always not remote. I was remote in an office, but still also working in a remote team. And this is also a practice that we used for quite some time now, just to bring people closer together.
Excellent ideas. Pretty much in line with the virtual power team method, with focus on personality and personal and then professional updates. How big is your team actually?
So my whole team in the pre-sales community, we're around 20 people, and we're distributed all over Europe.
Okay.
So Hamburg, Dublin, London, Paris, and that's it.
Okay. So the major cities in Europe, 20 people.
Yeah.
Is it a flat organization or you have some hierarchy?
Well, do you mean hierarchy in terms of what's on paper or where we live?
Where do you live?
Where we live, well, it's not you. We're all we're working together, so we all have eyesight, which is super important. We're all on the same level. Yes, there are hierarchies, of course there are, and what I strongly believe in is that those hierarchies, I always try to find a way why we actually need them. Sometimes you need to take decisions and somebody has to take them in the end, but that's the one thing. For everything else, it's super important to get together and to not think about those hierarchies, to be together.
Empower people.
Yes.
How big is actually the teams? How big are the teams in Dropbox? Is there a standard, like up to?
Not really, and I think it really depends if you look at the different organizational parts. So, and also if you look at it from an organizational perspective or from a project perspective. So from a project perspective, for example, if I look at that from a sales perspective, a sales team is usually 3 to 5 people working together on a certain set of customers. If you look at it from an organizational perspective, we have like sales and pre-sales and post-sales and customer success. So different teams, but they are working closer together as a team that is responsible for a set of customers. And it's completely different in our engineering departments, for example. We always have engineering and design together in those teams. And then, of course, also like product management and product marketing. So
so a lot of collaboration, horizontal collaboration in the sales space with engineering. It's all about collaboration that you enable also as a product for other companies. What was your biggest challenge that you faced leading virtual or remote teams?
So the biggest challenge for me actually is one that happened this year. So I took over a new team working with a couple of people. Some of them I knew already for quite some time and met in person. And then I have one member of my team. She only joined Dropbox at the end of last year, actually. I think we have met once in person. But other than that, I had never met her in person. Like once in Dublin when that was still possible, end of last year. Right? Yes. Now things happened. And for her, I think that the challenge was the part of the onboarding, although the official onboarding was obviously done, but then it's like the unofficial onboarding, the stuff where you just talk to someone over the table, where just, if you have a question, you can just walk 5 meters and you can ask someone. That was her biggest challenge. For me, the biggest challenge was leading someone when you can't meet with them in person, because this is so super different. So for me, the first thing that I had to do is not only have those regular one-on-one meetings where we talk about mainly business stuff, but also set up with the whole team then, as I mentioned earlier, the social meeting to get to know the people better, which is important for my job as a lead in the team.
Absolutely. Personality in focus. I can share some formats with the live journey, or I have a 4 magic question flash intro. The listeners of the podcast have heard them already, but they could go deep, heart to heart. Now, that was the challenge, not meeting the person in person, the employee. What was your most exciting experience in virtual teams?
Well, if you ask me, for me personally, especially if I look at virtual first, the most exciting things are yet to come. So what I'm really looking forward to is the flexibility that gives me from where will I work in the future. This is fantastic for me. So right now I'm in my home office in the nice little town Pinneberg, close to Hamburg. And it's super nice, right? I'm living in my house. I have a garden. I can go out. I cycle a bit. That's super nice. What if during summer I decide to take some vacation with the family, like, I don't know, 2 weeks in Spain, and then just stay there for an additional 2 weeks and work from there because I can now.
Yeah.
Right? No. It's not a problem at all. What if I don't know, in the fall we sometimes, or in it depends on the time, but sometimes we go to Denmark. In Denmark, you can rent very nice houses. Again, nothing is holding me back from, if I just need my time just for myself, to just go to Denmark for a week and work from there. That will be super amazing. We just need to have this vaccine for everyone first, get rid of this virus, and then the fun part starts for me, especially in virtual first, I guess.
Yes, amazing flexibility, work wherever you like, take the family, new experiences. Yeah. Sounds exciting. What advice, or let's look in the new normal. Now, many people talk about the new normal. What would be your forecast? How do you think the new normal would look like?
I think there's a difference between what I think it will look like and what I wish for it should look like.
Okay.
Because I've already seen a couple of things that don't really match together. So when this whole pandemic started, and I think the pandemic was really just accelerated a lot the new normal, right? We already were on the way to it since years now, but now we have this huge accelerator. And this accelerator worked for a couple of companies like Dropbox really good. For other companies, I've seen it initially worked extremely well. For example, the ability or the flexibility to give to people that they can work from home now, or can work remotely. I've already seen companies that have taken that back and say, yeah, we just needed that for this pandemic. And it didn't work out because it was super hard for me to control my people. I said, what? Well, if you need to control your people, you have a different problem. Right? It's not about people working somewhere else. I think we need to have, so for me, the new normal will be more trust into people. That's the number one thing that I'm seeing. This is what every company has to establish now, right? Because we have to trust our employees that no matter where they are doing their best job. It will not be so much on time anymore, like how much time you spend at your job. It will only be on the output that you deliver.
Yeah.
If you can do the same output in 4 hours, then it would usually take you 8 hours, because in an office you get distracted so much. Yes. Why shouldn't you work from home?
Yeah. So that's again, we're going to the trust your people and trustworthiness. How exactly do you phrase this value of Dropbox related to trust?
We call it be worthy of trust.
Be worthy of trust. So you have a big experience in Dropbox as a company culture and as a manager. And now some managers, as you said, they were, afraid to go remote. Accelerator came, and it turned out that people actually work more from home or deliver more. There were some concerns about burnout as well, including homeschooling and so on. But give us some tips. What would be your tips for managers that struggle maybe to trust their employees? What can they do in order to, be trusty, be worthy of trust as a manager, and, believe that their team members are trusty or worthy of trust?
That is a super tough question, because the only way you can do this is start doing it. There's no way to it. It's like, if you don't trust your employees, just think about that sentence for a minute, right? If you don't allow your people to work from home, and the reason is you don't trust them, just say this one sentence: I don't trust my employees. Yeah. You did a huge mistake when hiring them, if you now don't trust them. So correct this mistake. Yeah. I would say there's no reason why you shouldn't start by trusting them in the first place. You just have to do this. And then move from control into trust, and move from control into not looking at every single step of the way, but look at the output.
Yeah.
Just do this for one project. And by the way, if it fails, it fails. This might happen, right? Things tend to fail from time to time. Yeah. But anyways, so we also, like Dropbox, we did a story. We did a study with the Economist Intelligence Unit, a company that looked at the knowledge workers and during the pandemic. And what they found out is that especially the knowledge workers are more focused and just as dedicated at home as before. But we also know that not everything is perfect. And this is what we really need to look at, like those uninterrupted video conferencing, constant alerts, social isolation, and that can lead to excessive demands. So we really need to look at how we can support people best. And with the support comes the trust. Get to know your people. Get to know why they are doing certain things. Ask this simple question. Tell me more about it. Like,
tell me more. Yes.
So one thing. So I actually I found this one word that I really like. I think I invented it. It's the empathy turbo.
Empathy
I
turbo.
think empathy turbo. So what we really need is be more empathetic towards the people that we are working with, no matter who that is, no matter if it's your lead, if it's your employee, if it's whoever. Be empathetic. Everybody right now has different things to cope with. There are a lot of people that are really anxious and afraid about the situation, not only about COVID. I know that, especially in the US, everything that was together with this election, people were really afraid of what might come out of that. So ask them how they feel. Like the very first question in every call that you have today should be, how do you feel? And I don't mean this in a sense of, yeah, okay, and then let's go on to business, but in a way of listen and react. So really be empathetic. And if you be like that, you will also earn the trust of your employees, because they will trust you and they will tell you.
Yeah. Oh, great tips coming from the practice. So trust your people, listen. Nothing is new, but now in the context of new normal, these are things that work. Spend time with your employees to share their personal experience. I say the trust is a function of two things: personality, and this is how deep you know your team members as a human beings, not just as an experts, and then the professional expertise, and provide time and space, as you say, for those teams to unfold. Fantastic. So what do you think is the future of virtual teams? What to expect?
So I think we at Dropbox, we have really great expectations with virtual first. It will be a change. Everybody knows that. But still, for us as a company that is creating software to support remote working, this will help us build new products. This will help us really take all of the experience from virtual first, from working like that, and see where are the gaps today. Like, what are we missing in order to be super successful with this virtual first approach? So this is definitely one thing that I see for the future. The other thing that I see is, as I already mentioned, flexibility. So we will see a lot of that in the future. And by making a lot of the information that we developed internally also open source, we would love to see other companies follow our model, right? And we would be happy to talk to other companies about virtual first as well, and how they can get there, and what our thoughts are behind all of this. And you will find all of this on the blog.dropbox.com website, where you can find the whole virtual first toolkit. Like everything that we are using internal, you will find it on our webpage.
Yes, that's amazing. Please, we will share the link with the listeners. This is very valuable, and Thanks for sharing, being so open. You put everything as open source. So you give some brilliant ideas, but you open for, for feedback and co-design and co-create the future together. In fact, in my new book, Power Teams Beyond Borders, I bet a lot on so-called co-petition. So many spaces, even competitors can cooperate. That's, comes from cooperation and competition. And in the biotech now, companies working on vaccine for Corona, they cooperate in the R&D space together, fully open source, open the books, and then once they develop, they will compete on the market. So let's be cooperative in shaping the new future, the new normal together. Last two questions. One is, what do you read or what do you listen right now?
Now that's a good question. The last book I bought, and I think I bought it a little bit late, but which I still have to read. Let me just pick it up for you.
Okay, excellent.
Because it's right over here. It's No Rules.
Okay, No Rules.
The story of Netflix.
Okay.
Written by their CEO. I'm super curious about that book because what I read about it is like it has a very similar tone to what we're doing at Dropbox, but even more drastic. So No Rules is really what Netflix is about, and I'm super curious on reading it.
Fantastic. So at least you have a virtual first, a very clear guidance. They go with no rules.
Yeah.
That's amazing to read. Last question. Now, new normal opens up new spaces for working together. It opens up great, exciting opportunities, like you said, with the family, work from exciting locations. Let's see now, if you are an entrepreneur, imagine you are not a senior manager in Dropbox, but entrepreneur with a couple of probably 100 millions to invest. Where would you invest right now? Where do you see the biggest opportunity?
So I think if I were to invest right now, it would definitely be about ways or software that enables remote working even better than today. I'm still missing a couple of things. What I'm seeing is that there are tons of tools out there, but the connection between those tools, this is what's currently missing. Like this one unique tool that really fully enables remote work. Just look at what we are doing right now, right? We're collaborating on Zoom. This is also what we are using at Dropbox, by the way. Then for small chats, we're using Slack. Then we still have an email client. Then we still have our file system. Well, we only have Dropbox, but anyways, there's so many tools, and bringing them together, also the other virtual tools, the cloud tools that people are using today. Just bringing everything together in a single space with some magic that will show you only the stuff that you really need. That would be what I would invest in.
Excellent. So you're betting on like seamless integration platform that can integrate currently the best of breed systems that we use. Fantastic. Marc, thank you very much for being our guest. Thanks for sharing so transparently what Dropbox is planning to do. I wish you good luck, and we will share all your links and insights in a summary in the podcast. Wish you all the best and hope to meet you in person soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. And absolutely likewise, I really hope to meet in person whenever it's possible again.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.